Hello, welcome to U.S. History 1. We are on Unit 2, Part 4. Today we will be talking about the Middle Colonies. We're going to start with what became New York, but was settled as New Netherland. And you can see it in the Dutch language there, New Nederland. All right, and that would be the gold area covering what is today New Jersey and parts of New York into modern, present-day Connecticut. Right, you can also see some of the English colonies, Massachusetts, Rhode Island, and what was Connecticut at the time. And like I said, it was founded by the Dutch. They named it New Netherlands. People who settled in New Netherlands and owned land, they were known as patroons. And it is a word that has made its way into the English language, although we don't use it very often. It's normally not a very nice thing to call somebody a patroon. It kind of refers to them being lazy. 1664, English warships entered what is today New York Harbor. New Netherlands and, at the time, New Amsterdam, as it was known, the city of New York, New Amsterdam, didn't have a lot of military ability. They were kind of underfunded. And so the governor of New Netherland, Peter Stuyvesant, was forced to surrender. Right, there's Stuyvesant. Okay. The King of England at the time, Charles II, then granted the land to his brother. New Netherland became property of the Duke of York, and he renamed it New York. And there's Charles II. All right, so looking at New Jersey, there's the modern day boundaries. All right. You can see Pennsylvania, Delaware. I got a little bit of Maryland there, and then up towards New York and Connecticut. Right. New Jersey, already mentioned on the previous one, had been part of New Netherlands. All right. In 1702, it was separated from New York and set up as an English royal colony, meaning it belonged to the king. Right. The charter granted New Jersey gave religious freedom and an elected assembly, just like several of the other colonies had, and they were allowed to vote on local matters. Right? The crown still had direct control, and of course so did Parliament. All right, one little closer to home, Pennsylvania. If you look at the map, you can see the outline and where the Iroquois Confederation controlled. That was the confederation of Indian tribes in the Northeast, and they controlled most of this territory, although they weren't an empire or a strong military by any means, but they lived and worked together in a cooperative fashion. Right. You can see that the dark orange, burgundy, whatever you want to call that color, that is what was given as Pennsylvania originally. It does not extend to this area that we live in today. All right, so it was founded by William Penn, 1682. He received it because his king owed money to William Penn's father. And so to pay off the debt, the king gave Pennsylvania to William Penn. Pennsylvania actually means Penn's Forest. There's William Penn. Kind of looks like the Quaker Oats guy. Excuse me. Penn had joined the Quakers at the age of 82. It was a religious group in England, and they were not well liked. As I got written there, they were despised. Penn, when he set up the colony, granted religious freedom. You could practice any religion you wanted in Pennsylvania. Unlike many of the other colonies, he dealt very fairly with the Indians who were already living here in Pennsylvania. They had good treaties. The treaties were honored. The relationship between Penn and Penn's government and the Indians was very good. There was also a large German population that settled in Pennsylvania. They moved mostly into the central part of the state. They're known as the Pennsylvania Dutch. All right, Pennsylvania Dutch, you may have heard that term, but they are German speaking. All right, and actually, Pennsylvania Dutch is kind of like a slight dialect of German. It's not exactly the main German spoken today, or even then. And you will find that the Amish speak Pennsylvania Dutch. Many of them are Pennsylvania Dutch speakers. The Amish speak several languages, to be honest, including English and Pennsylvania Dutch. Delaware, small state today. You can see it there, Rehoboth Beach. Some of you may have been on vacation there. Dover is the capital. You can see the Delaware Bay that separates most of Delaware from New Jersey. Right. Originally, Delaware was part of Pennsylvania. It was part of the land grant that William Penn had received. Eventually, he allowed them to have their own assembly. It wasn't easy traveling in those days between Delaware and Pennsylvania, so they were becoming more and more independent of Pennsylvania. So in 1701, they got their own assembly. Right. When you look at the middle colonies, a little bit easier in a lot of ways than New England. Not as harsh in some of the winter weather, but they were known as the breadbasket colonies. The reason being, the middle colonies were very good for farming. You remember we talked about the rocky soil and bad conditions for farming in New England. Well, the middle colonies had good conditions. There were contributions to the middle colonies by different groups, and by different groups I mean different settlers from different countries. Swedish settlers introduced the log cabin to the Americas. The Dutch, having settled in New York, they used a lot of red brick, and their architecture was to build narrow, high-walled houses. Right, so kind of like what we would call townhouses today. And then the Germans that moved in, they developed a wood-burning stove to help heat their homes here in the Americas.